Hi, everyone. Okay, you caught me. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talk Truth. In fact, welcome to the WHT family. All right. Once you come here, there's no turning back. I'm so happy to have you on another episode of Talk Truth, brought to you by Women Healing Together and the LAX Society, reminding you that this is your safe space and your safe place where we tackle the issue of childhood sexual abuse and help women who are on their road of healing. I am your host, Popsan Francis. Now, I know some persons may be saying, listen, Popsan, isn't Talk Truth aired every first and third Wednesday? Yes, yes, yes. But for this, the final Wednesday, the fourth Wednesday of November, we are doing a special bonus episode in honor, in commemoration, in support, in solidarity with the United Nations. It is the International Day where we are celebrating the elimination of violence against women. So, though this is a safe space and place where we tackle the issue of childhood sexual abuse and help women who are on their road of healing, we're taking a different approach tonight in honor of this day. We're going to be talking about domestic violence. So, our topic for this evening is domestic violence or domestic abuse myth. Like, a lot of persons, they exclaim, wow, domestic violence, it's so awful, it's so crazy. But when it comes on to myths, people have no idea that they have misconception. So today is our special bonus episode, episode 3, and we'll be here together for an hour. Look here, I told you in the promo video that Talk Truth season 2, it's bigger and it's better, and it's so big today that we have two beautiful, phenomenal ladies who will be joining us. In fact, they are here. But before I go any further, right now, please hit that subscribe button, like, and share. Most importantly, share. If you know someone who is a victim of domestic abuse, who is a victim or has been a victim, please invite them on so that we can have an open and honest conversation as we move forward on our various journeys of healing. Again, welcome to another episode of Talk Truth. Now, let me stop the chatting, right? And let me bring our guests on. The first guest I'd like to introduce you to is Donna Campbell, and she's coming on screen right now. Hi, Donna.
Hi.
So Donna is here with us, and I'm excited to have Donna here. You will never meet a lovelier soul. That much I can say to you. You'll never meet a lovelier soul. Donna is a recent, or she'll be graduating from Andrews University. In fact, she has completed her study, a master's in social work, or a master of arts degree in social work, and also a master of arts in youth and young adult ministry. So she's perfect here, very, very perfect for Talk Truth as she comes to share with us her expertise in the field. So welcome, Donna.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. And we're also going to be bringing on screen Tamara Hylton. Yes. We may ask her to bust a tune for us, as we'd say in Jamaica. So we're bringing, yes, this looks so awesome. Hi, Tamara.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Popson. Hi, Donna.
Hi, Tamara. Yes. So just a little bit about Tamara. I'm waiting for the juicy stuff later. So Tamara, before you came on, I was sharing with the WHT family and specifically Talk Truth this evening about who Donna is, her expertise, her qualifications. And I'm not going to delve into yours just yet because you're saving the juice for later. But what I
Right.
can say to our viewers on Talk Truth and to our WHT family is Tamara is an inspiration.
Mm.
She is an inspiration. I said to
Wow.
you earlier that a lovelier person than Donna you will not find. I have to put Tamara in that mix. Two
Thank
lovely
you.
women. I'm telling you, ladies.
Mm.
And women healing together family, I know these women, they are awesome, genuine, and kind. I'm in love with enough, enough, love.
Love you too, girl. Love you too.
So let's get going. As I always say to our viewers on Talk Truth, it's an interactive show.
Yes.
We want you to ask your questions. We want you to ask or guess the questions. We want you to interact. We want you to comment. We want you to share because we are definitely, oh, I love that. You see, oh, nice. Because as women, we need to come together. So many times as women, we fight against each other.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
True.
That's it. That's just the truth. And that is why women healing together, it's so important. And that's why I'm so happy to have you guys. You're looking so
Yes.
beautiful. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, honey. Yourself too.
Thank you. Thank you. So are you ready to dig right in? Let's start the things because the truth will set us free. Our topic this evening is domestic abuse, myths. What? I didn't know that. What myths? What are you talking about? So let's get into it. I want to start with Donna. And Donna, the first question I think is the most important question is what is domestic abuse? Because I think so many persons are still not sure what it is. They have a misconception. So talk to us. What is it?
So that's a good question to start off with. Uh, Domestic abuse has been given different names. And forgive me, because whenever I say domestic abuse, I'm always hearing my professor in my head saying, that's not the word anymore, Donald. Do not use domestic abuse. But it goes by domestic abuse, domestic violence, or IPV, which we call intimate partner violence. So those are the three names that it goes by. Yes, Tamara, I can say IPV, yes, intimate partner
Could you
violence.
say that last term for me again?
So it's IPV and it stands for intimate partner violence.
Wow. Okay.
So that's the new term that they're leaning more towards because what they're saying is that based on the settings that the abuse would take place, it doesn't have to be within the same home.
Right.
So, for example, for teenagers, if they're going through an abusive relationship, they might not be living with the household. So, it still is a form of violence, but it is intimate partner violence. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's a term that they're using more often than, yeah.
So I want to chime in right here. I see Tamara like, she's shaking her head like, really? No, yes. I want to throw this out to our audience. Did you know that domestic abuse is also called intimate partner violence? Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Intimate
you got
First
it
time I'm
right.
hearing that one.
Yes. So
Yeah.
for our Talk Truth family, did you know that? Is this something new to you? Because Donna, you just said it does not have to happen in the home.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. You're shaking your head, Tamara. Tell me what's going on in your mind right
I'm just thinking that it is very much a fitting term, intimate partner violence, because you're very intimate with people who tend to abuse you. And even after the abuse, you actually, find yourself getting intimate with this individual also. And I'm thinking, wow, it's actually quite a fitting term.
now.
Yeah.
And then something else Donna said that stood out to me. you said it does not have to happen in the home.
Correct.
Right.
Because if you have a teenager and they're in an intimate relationship, if they are not living with that partner, then it can take place elsewhere at their house. So yeah.
Wow.
All right, so just a little side note here. Donna, I want you to look your best on camera, right? So I'm going to ask you just to shift your camera a little bit, just shift it a little so we can see. Now,
That's
beautiful.
better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No
I was
problem.
trying to do this in the middle of my talking, but I realized it might, come a little bit off. So
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. The next
Okay.
question that I have, and it's directed to Donna, is the question is, does intimate partner violence have to be physical?
No. So before I answer that question, I realized that we went off and we're talking about the term
Yes.
for domestic abuse, the other terms of domestic abuse, but I did not define it for you. So, according to the United Nations, they define domestic abuse as partner violence or
Please
domestic
forgive me.
violence.
I'm sorry, Donna. Sorry for cutting you. We're getting a feedback, so I'm not hearing you very clear. I don't know if Tamara is hearing that.
Yes, I'm hearing that.
Yeah, I'm hearing
Maybe there's another device or something. If you have maybe a pair of earphones, maybe that could help. Just let us know. I know that hobby is right near you.
Oh no, he's at church.
Okay.
He's not nearby. So that's why I'm wondering why you're hearing the echo.
Could you repeat that?
No, I'm saying there's no one in my vicinity with another device. So I'm not sure why you're doing that because I'm hearing it too.
Yes. Maybe our technicians could help us with that backstage in studio.
I think maybe she needs to leave the stream and then re-enter.
Yes,
that could probably fix it.
Do you want me to try that?
Pardon?
Do you want me to try the suggestion that Tamara is doing?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. We'll wait on you. Both of you are the main players right here. I'm just
okay.
All right.
And while she's doing that, let me grab my AC remote because it's getting warm inside here.
Thank you so very much. So we are here on episode 3 of Talk Truth. Donna is having some technical difficulties, but I know she'll be back with us soon. So Tamara, thank you so much for staying with us. And you could even, in your experience, we don't want to delve into the experience yet as we wait on to reconnect and to join us. But so many persons believe that domestic abuse is only physical.
Definitely not.
For persons who have that myth in their minds, especially for women who are experiencing the abuse and they think it's physical. Oh, I'm not being beaten. Talk to us. What's your perspective on that?
It's definitely not merely physical. It has to do with verbal, emotional. There is also financial abuse in relationship, even spiritual abuse. Yes. Depending on if you're with even a Christian, you can even experience spiritual abuse also, right? So it really takes various forms when you experience it in a relationship. Some persons, they may experience all the various types, whereas some people may just be experiencing maybe just verbal or just emotional. But at the end of the day, it still boils down to intimate partner violence. I'm using my correct term.
Thank you so much for that insight, Tamara. Donna, you are back with us. Let's try it out. Let's see what
are you hearing that better?
Much better. Yes. Yes. Great. So you were just about to define domestic abuse. Go right ahead.
Okay, so according to the United Nations, it can be defined as any pattern of behavior in a relationship that is used to gain or to maintain power or control over an intimate partner. Now, it doesn't have to be physical abuse, and Tamara went into that as well. It could be psychological abuse, it can be economic abuse or financial abuse. and the behaviors could just be so hard to define for some people, but it could be behaviors where the person tried to intimidate the person, to terrorize the person, to make the person feel fearful.
Yes.
So any form of humiliation, anything like that, those are some of the behaviors that you have to be mindful of. And then the next question that you asked me about if it is that, could you repeat the question again?
Oh, is it only physical? But just before you respond to that, Madam Social Worker Donna Campbell, Ellis Chronicles on YouTube, she's saying, based
That's
on
my niece right there.
welcome.
Hey, come.
And it says, based on based on what I understand, it's abuse from an intimate partner, whomever that intimate partner is.
That's correct.
And that's so physical, but we're not. Ellis, look here, Ellis, you're really getting into the thing, because my all right, but we're going to allow Donna. Go ahead, Donna.
And this can also be in different types of relationship, because it can be a married couple, it can be between a boyfriend and girlfriend. Tamara touched on it a little bit too, because you also have spiritual abuse.
Hold on.
Yes.
Look here, WHT family, do you understand why we have these extraordinary women with us? Because they are dropping some talk through treasures here. Viewers, ladies, do you think that partners, intimate partners, can abuse their spouses, boyfriend, girlfriend, whomever, spiritually?
Oh, yeah.
Let me hear what you have to say about that. Comment,
Oh, yes.
type in the live. We want to hear what you have to say. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. And I have experienced that. So I know. I know.
You think so? The lady from the experience speaking out, Well,
Oh,
just
yes.
coming because I see the passion, and I see like, yes, I know what I'm talking. And then Tammy, you can just come in right after.
All right.
Right. So it doesn't have to be physical abuse. It can be emotional abuse. It can be verbal abuse. It can be economic abuse. It can be spiritual abuse, psychological abuse, or threats, just making threats to the person. And not to jump into this too much, but I was looking at a research earlier before I came on the program, and it was saying that they're recognizing that even a lot of these abuse that these women survive or they endure, there's a correlation between domestic abuse, IPV, and the increase in depression and suicide for women. So there's a strong correlation between that. And I think it goes without saying why there is a correlation between that, because if it is that you're being, remember now, it's not just the physical abuse, people, get that in your head. It's not just the physical abuse. So imagine someone who is manipulating you day and night, somebody who is terrorizing you, and somebody who is blaming you, always nitpicking at things that you do, somebody who is just torturing you mentally, you're going to get to that place where you just feel like, I'm trapped. There's no way of getting out of this. And so once you lose hope, you're going to get to that place where you're starting to have those suicidal ideations. So it goes without saying that there would be a correlation between that.
As I bring Tamara in, there is the second myth. So the first myth that we have debunked this evening is it does not just happen in the home.
Right.
Second, it is not just physical, right?
Yes.
So we are just debunking the myth. The third myth that we'd like to bring to the fore is some people believe only women who are uneducated, only women who believe that they are ugly, only women who are not professional, only those women are affected. right? So there's some comments coming in. Just put those back on screen for us, my lovely studio engineer. He's working hard behind the scenes. We want to bring those to the fore. Right. So Shanae from YouTube said, oh, this is very interesting. And I think she said that in light of the spiritual abuse.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Put the others on. Sakleen is asking a question. How does that work? Like spiritual abuse? That is, what is that?
Oh, yes.
I know Tamara to come right in now to talk about the third myth and to just tie in the spiritual abuse, because you did say, I lived it, and it seems as if you wanted to jump out.
I think maybe at this point I need to speak a truth that a lot of people do not know, but I was actually married to a pastor, right? So, so when you talk about spiritual abuse, it's, you been treated as though you are not godly enough to meet up to the standard of the church and the pastor. And when you do certain things, you are being told, you are a Christian. Look at the other pastors' wives. Why would you do that? You see any of the other pastors' wives doing that kind of thing? Why are you doing that? Why are you wearing lip gloss, or why are you getting your nails done when the other pastors' wives, they don't do that sort of thing? Why are you wearing a pair of pants when all the other pastors' wives are wearing skirts and so on? And you feel as though you are not good enough. You feel like you are not Christian enough. And for me, that is where the spiritual abuse comes out in the relationship, right? So yeah, so that's it. And you talk about the third myth. Of course, again, I can relate to myself. When I got married, I had just graduated maybe a year or two with my first degree. I graduated with first class honors, top of my class, right? And here I am getting into a marriage where 2 months into the marriage, I experienced my first hit from a man that was not my father, right? So abuse is no respecter of persons.
I'm happy the day they changed the term from victims of abuse to survivors of abuse.
Yes.
I'm
happy.
Wow.
And I'm definitely a survivor. Right? And you can be a victim and a victor at the same time.
That's it. Yeah.
There's another talk truth treasure that you just dropped. You ladies are just dropping them all over.
Yes.
You can't be a victor and a victim at the same time.
Definitely not. Because if you embrace that experience of being victimized, you will not be able to heal and recover. You will not be able to move forward from that situation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's just bring in our WHT family, or Talk Truth family. Shanae says, she's like, whoa, I think I did. And Shanae verbalized that, like, whoa. She also said, oh, that one missed me. Tanisha says that was very important. That was a very important note, because oftentimes persons think abuse is mostly centered on preventing someone from doing something, but there's also the enforcing of things on a partner. So that's a good point. Can we just bring up back Shanae's response on screen? Thank you. Shanae says, you are still an inspiration. I told you.
Thank you, Shanae.
She says, Tamara, continue to speak your truth. No, just staying with Tamara a little bit more. Tamara is no dibby. Lady. For those of you not from Jamaica, another Jamaican term is coming. She's not fenke. She is a strong, black, phenomenal woman. Educated. You just said you had graduated first class honors.
Yes.
This lady is a brilliant lady. She recently, I think last year, graduated with her master's, again, distinction. But you found yourself in this situation and being married to a pastor. We want to thank you so much for speaking your truth. Tamara, Did you ever see yourself becoming a victim of intimate partner violence? Was there any previous relationship and you say, okay, you know that I'm afraid or I have
No.
this talk to us? Was there
Definitely not. I've always seen myself as a strong, powerful, independent Black woman, very ambitious, always just working hard towards achieving my goals. And I had this thing about me, even from I was a child, anything I put my mind to, I will work towards it and I will achieve it. And even if I experience failure, I wasn't going to sit down and just, wallow in pity and just say, okay, this is the end of the world. I always just move forward with whatever dreams or aspirations that I had. And so when I decided, okay, it's time for me to settle down and get married and start a family. Getting into that relationship, not even for one moment, I thought that I would have experienced abuse. Matter of fact, never had any relationships where I had that kind of experience before. So, I mean, I didn't have plenty relationship experience before that situation. That was the first time I was actually living with somebody. So even though I had a relationship before, never lived with anybody before, but I didn't expect that would have happened. So at the end of the day, you get into a relationship, for me, I was happy. Good. When I got married, I was happy. I was looking forward to living in marital bliss in this relationship. So for not even one moment, I thought that I would have experienced abuse in that relationship. And then, of course, because of who I was married to, I didn't think that, okay, if we have challenges, it would have turned into an abusive situation.
yes, yes. Wow. Someone is asking, but before you respond to that question, I'm going to
Yes.
go there, think about it, and we're just going to go to Donna for a moment. Shanae is asking, did you see any warning signs before marriage, any red flags
Yes.
previously? So we want to hear your experience, but we're going to go to Donna now. Donna,
Mhm.
another myth we need to debunk. Some people say you should know. You should have seen
Mm.
it. Your eyes should be wide open. You didn't see the man close the car door too rough, and you should have run for your life. Talk to us. Are there red flags? Do some women just really don't see what's happening? And is it
Uh,
possible for them to see it?
there are times when you will see red flags, but more often than not, you will not see those red flags. And what we need to take into consideration is that a relationship, an abusive relationship, did not start out that way. So it started off very loving and caring, and all of that is taking place. And you're so in love with that person. And it's like over time, into the relationship, you recognize that the person is changing and you're really seeing the true, not really changing. They were always like that. They're just revealing
Right.
themselves now. So,
Yes.
right. So they don't change. They hide that long enough for you to be so convinced that they would never lay their hand on you. They would never say anything to verbally abuse you or to emotionally abuse you and all the other abuse that comes with that. And so it's very hard for you to identify signs. However, there are some instances where you're able to identify red flags.
Yes.
We tend to overlook them. And the reason for that is, oh, you're so in love.
Mm.
And that is where the trap is. So
Yeah.
because you're in love with the person, you're not able to see that. And and I know you're probably gonna get into that because this is one of the biggest, probably one of the biggest myths that's out there. It's if it was bad enough, the woman would have left the relationship. So I don't want to jump the gun with that, but
Don't jump
it
in.
feeds,
Don't jump in.
yeah, it feeds into that question because uh just thinking about it, it started off as a love relationship, very intimate, a lot of excitement and fun and adventure with this person, only to wake up one day, like Tamara said. things were going good for maybe the first month. It was nice. You were still in the honeymoon phase and all of that. But then by the second month, which that was so early for the person to reveal themselves. Like, I was shocked when you said by the second month. I was thinking that you made a mistake by saying the second month and not the second year. So, you were able to see that very early.
Yeah. And you know what? I have to say also that this is somebody that I had a friendship with for a number of years prior to us dating and making that decision that we wanted to get married. It wasn't somebody that I just met along the way. It was somebody that we were friends for maybe, say, 5 years. We were good friends. We were at church together. We were going to concerts together. We were just friends, right? And of course, somebody asked about the red flags. Did I see any red flags before? Let me tell you something, people. 11 years ago, I know nothing about red flags. It is only recently that I started learning about red flags. 11 years ago, I know nothing about narcissism and even had domestic abuse or abusive relationship at the forefront of my mind, because as I said, this was something that I never experienced before. So going into that relationship, I just never thought that behavior that I saw prior to the marriage would have led into abuse, or that was a sign that this person had the potential to be abusive, right? So I'm a Christian, he's a Christian. So I just thought that, okay, if we see this kind of behaviors, these are things that we can pray about and the Lord will answer the prayer and deal with the situation, right? So to be a little bit more specific, I remember one time while we were dating, and at that time I was carrying like 2 jobs or 3 jobs I was doing at the time when I was in Jamaica. And I remember the Sunday I went to work. Now, along with my jobs, I was still also, pursuing my music on the side and so on. So I remember I have a group of friends. They invited me to come to a studio to do some background vocals for them. I went to the studio the Sunday afternoon after work. I was doing assessment for Heart Trust. I went to the studio. When I was at the studio, he called to say, all right, I'm coming to see you this evening so that we could hang out a little bit. I was there at the studio. My niece was living with me at the time. She answered the phone and she said, oh, Auntie's in the studio with so-and-so. And he got so mad about it that at that point he said, oh, I heard that you and this guy together and I'm calling off the wedding. So I'm like, okay, right? So for me, I tried to appease him at that time because he was saying, all right, this is the situation. And I tried to say, listen, this is not what is happening. I just went to get some recording done, right? So for me, that would have been a red flag. Outside of that, I didn't see anything else. I didn't see anything else outside of that prior to the marriage. Yes. I didn't see anything else.
And that is critical, because one of the things Donna said was, you're so in love and nobody gets married or gets in a relationship thinking, oh, I am going to be victimized.
Right,
you're hoping for the best, you're believing for the best. And I think that many women, when it happens, whether 1 month or 12 years after, the shock of sometimes just cause you to be frozen. It really just causes you to be frozen.
Yes.
Tamara, you said your experience started 2 months in the marriage.
Yeah.
How did it start? At what point did you say, okay, this feels weird, this sounds weird? Was there anything non-physical before it became physical? In retrospect, you may not have realized it then, but what can you share with women who are watching now?
Okay. So let me try and dig up into my memory to see what happened. And I want to ask Donna, because one of the things that has happened to me is that some things I don't remember. I don't know if that is bad or if it's good, but I think I read something somewhere that says when you have really bad memory, the brain functions in such a way that it kind of blocks those kind of memories from you. And I think that has actually happened to me. That experience happened like over 10 years ago, 11, 10 years ago, right? So how did it all started? So we got married, went on a honeymoon. Honeymoon was nice. Honeymoon was good. I remember at that time we moved from one parish to another. And shortly after coming from the honeymoon, we realized that we have to move to the parish that we moved from because now he was being placed in another district of churches. So we had to pack up and relocate like within a month of being married. And I remember we had, I don't remember what session we had, but it was some conference session. Went to this conference session, and I'm only able to remember this, guys, because I had made a diary entry of this experience. And when I was at the function, I remember I saw a pastor that I'd known from way back in the days. And he came over, he greeted me, and of course, I introduced him to my spouse at the time. And, you know, I spent a little bit of time talking with him, catching up and so on. I really don't even remember him that well, but he remembered me from my home church in Jamaica and so on. When I got into the car and I shared this with somebody this evening, he mentioned something about me being a laba woman. Now, people, I'm telling you, when he said that, me, nice, decent girl, calling me a laba woman, and I'm like, and he made me use that expression because I was talking with the pastor, right? And all of you from Jamaica, if you're from Jamaica, when you talk about a woman being a laba, it's for me, it's somebody who by the roadside, lap them tail or them front tail and just be chatting and going on. And I'm saying, how could you be using that expression to describe me? Right? And then, of course, an argument started. We got home the night and we were arguing back and forth. And the next thing I know, a fight started and
yeah,
got a hit and it just went crazy. Just went crazy just because of that experience. It wasn't anything that I did, just a conversation with a pastor that I knew from when I was growing up in the country. That's all.
I don't know if our viewers and Madam Social Worker, I just spotted a trend. Pre-marriage, you said you were in the studio.
Yes.
Your niece says, "Oh, she's in," and then he responds, "Oh, you're with this man. You are going to call off the wedding."
And it continued like that. It was always an accusation of somebody, always an accusation right throughout the marriage and the abuse. It was always on the point of, okay, I heard. Yeah.
So I think this is the question that, and persons who are tuning with us, we can put the comments on screen. I think now it's a good time to get some feedback in. I did see some comments on screen. Jenny said, how did you fight back? How did you talk back? But before you answer the question of how did you fight back, and I don't think Janiel is talking about literal fighting. How did you cope? Before you respond to that, Donna, the big question is, you are a victim. You are being traumatized and victimized. Why do women stay? Some people say she don't have the strength to sit with that because she's a pastor. Well, she's so educated. She's working 3 jobs, can't take care of. Why do women stay?
So I've heard even women who are actual survivors of domestic abuse look at other women in the same situation and say, she's stupid or foolish to stay in that relationship because she's like, look at me, I escaped it, I fought back and I escaped that. And, you know, I had to remind the person that, you know, there's a picture that I love. We always use it for trauma presentation. And there's a tall dog standing in the middle of a puddle, mud puddle. and there's a shorter dog standing in that same puddle. And the question is asked, how deep is the mud? Now, it depends on who you ask the question, because everybody responds to things differently. And so for a person who was able to escape with no injury, no extra efforts to fight back, that's all good. But a woman will stay in a relationship not because she wants to stay there. Tamara mentioned something about, she's not able to remember even some of what happened. And that's not just with you, like women or anyone who goes through trauma, there is a disorder that, and Tamara, I hope by using the word disorder, you're not feeling it.
That's fine.
It's called dissociative disorder, where you disconnect yourself from the reality of what took place. So it's almost like a coping mechanism for you, because you don't want to go back to that painful place. So you disconnect that memory so much that you're like, that really happened to me, or am I just thinking that it happened? So you disconnect. So it's called dissociative disorder. So women
Tamara, Donna, just let it Tamara. You know that you're 100%, right? You're 100%.
I know.
It's just a coping mechanism. And it's not necessarily a bad coping mechanism, because if it works for you until you're at a place where you can process that, that's fine. Until you get to the place where you can process all of the painful pieces of it. So that's fine. But there's several reasons why a woman would stay. And this is, it goes back to the definition where the perpetrator will manipulate the situation so much where they would even make threats that if you leave, I'll kill myself. Now, you don't want to leave because you don't want as much as the person is abusing, and you'd probably be like, well, go ahead and do that. You're protecting that person in the process, and they manipulate the situation so well that you're not even recognizing that I'm actually supporting what he's trying to do with me right now, because he's manipulating me and I'm allowing him to do that. A lot of times it becomes even more difficult when children are involved in the situation. So they'll manipulate it again to say, okay, if you leave this relationship, I'm going to kill you and the kids. Or if you leave the relationship, I'm going to take the kids. And so a lot of times, even I've noticed, I'm going to touch something really, a very touchy area right now.
Talk truth, Donna. You're on talk truth. Talk the truth.
Even in the church, because we have that moral standard that we want to uphold, where we want the kids, because we know that's the ideal. And my husband always talks about there is the ideal but sweets, but there's also the reality. So the ideal is for us to want to have the kids being raised by both parents in a loving home. And so even though that is happening, you're like, okay, I'm staying for the children's sake. So a lot of times that's what is happening in a lot of these relationships, where the woman will say, okay, I'm going to sacrifice, and I'm using that very strong word, I'm going to sacrifice my happiness, my self-worth, and my dignity for my children, because my children come first, and I don't want my children to not know what it feels like to have their father in their life like this. But if it is that the child or the children, they're in the same home and they are experiencing, they're seeing, they're witnessing the abuse, and this is another myth too. If the children, if they're in the home and they're witnessing the abuse, and when I say witness, they don't have to be witnessing this physically, or they're seeing this with their eyes, visually they're seeing it. If the child is in another room and they're hearing the sounds from the other room, or the words being thrown at their mother, that is, and this is the myth, that is child abuse. So while the mother is being abused and experiencing intimate partner violence, the child or the children, they're also experiencing child abuse in the process.
Yes.
So the dynamics become so difficult for you to leave because of the children. There are other reasons too. The minute your perpetrator knows that you're making an escape from the relationship, your life is in danger. And a lot of women, they lose their lives as a result of making a plan to escape their relationship. Now, I attended a conference maybe a year ago, and I was shocked to hear some of the alarming statistics of like how you can create a plan if you're experiencing intimate partner violence and you need to escape. So the cops, they cannot just come to your house.
Just a moment, Madam Monica. Just a moment. Just a moment. We want to leave the ladies towards the very end. What can they do? And that is, we want to leave with the solution. So just before you get there, I'm sorry for interjecting here.
No problem.
We want to bring in our WHT family. So there were some comments streaming in as we were talking. I think it was Tanisha who says the Christian myth. So when you spoke about it, that's why I urge you and say, yeah, man, talk the truth, talk the truth. Especially when to a pastor being a Christian, a lot of people believe, oh, that does not happen in a Christian home. I believe that is the ideal situation for it to be shielded, because people don't expect it to happen. There was a question that came before, so I want to respond to that. And there's also one on screen. Let me direct this one to Tamara first. Tamara, Janiel is asking, in the end, was he cheating or just projecting his own guilt? She says, I noticed that in most of the experience, your ex-husband was always accusing you of extramarital affair.
To be honest, I cannot say if he was. All I know, he was not at the house most of the times. He was out. I'm not going to say that he was cheating or he was not cheating. Yes. I cannot say. And I will not make that accusation at this point in time. As I said, for the most part, he was away. He enjoyed playing dominoes. And even sometimes in the wee hour of the mornings, that's when he would be coming home from playing dominoes. So I am not sure what he loved more, if it was the dominoes or if there was something else out there that he was enjoying. So I don't know.
Yes. I just have to say this, that what you did a while ago is a representation, a display of a strong and fair woman. And maybe this has nothing to do with domestic violence, but for women who are watching, it takes a strong woman who has been hurt to not accuse without knowing. Because I really want to demonize him, and everybody should know that he's wicked. I'm going to leave my comments. I'm going to leave my comments on that. But what you did a while ago, it took strength. The question that another member of our community asked on YouTube is, how did you fight back?
How did I fight back?
Survive?
Wow. All right. So I want to go back a little bit to a question that was asked about why do women stay in violent relationships? And I want to speak a little bit to my situation as to why I stayed. Now, as I said, I was married to a minister. And when I had the first experience, I was in shock, literally in shock. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to go and share this information with. I felt I was not only in shock, but I felt ashamed, because you're talking about a young woman who was a youth leader for the parish, federation president. I was actively involved in music ministry at the time. So a lot of people know me back then, and very active in the church, various leadership positions, AY leader, choir director, working at the conference level in the federation and so on. So I was popular. A lot of people know Tamara Hylton. And so for me now to go out and say, oh, I'm now married to a pastor that is abusing me. That was just too much to go and tell to anybody. So in my own way, I tried to deal with the situation. And I tell you about the whole prayer experience, trying to pray about this situation and ask the Lord to intervene. But I don't, guys, let me say this. I remember one time I said to him, let us pray about it. And the pastor said, pray about what? Pray about what, you know? And in my own way, I tried. I became, I'm losing my thoughts here.
Take your
I
time.
had to basically put myself into hiding, right? I buried myself in my job. Of course, I tried to fight back physically. I was writing at that time, you know, recording the different things that were happening during that time. So I had a diary that every time there was an experience, I would you know, put the information in. Sometimes I would lock myself away in a room, cry, until I got to the point now where I called my mother, spoke to my mother about it. My mother is a praying woman too, and she said, let us pray about it. And my mother, we prayed. God, that didn't fix the situation till I got his family involved. And I think that was the worst thing I could have done, because instead of the family coming to give support, they sided with him and made it look like, okay, you must be doing something because we have to protect our son, who is the pastor that we paid so much money to study at NCU. And, you know, you want to mash up his life. And, you know, it was just really terrible. And for me, it was more trying to protect the relationship, protect his reputation as a pastor. So we would have a nasty fight, maybe even Thursday evening or Friday evening, and I would go to church on Sabbath morning in my broad hat and being called the Bunununu's wife, and I would sit there and, you know, just being the nice wife that I'm expected to be, and, you know, go up and sing sometimes, supporting his ministry, because I was just too ashamed to tell anybody that I was being abused in the relationship. I was just too ashamed, right? And for me, the biggest thing in recovering from this situation was getting over the shame. That was the biggest thing for me, getting over the shame.
Someone in our family commented on that, and we're going to ask to just put that up. The person, I think it was Shanae, in support of what you just said, here too, she says, I think the first step is to break the silence. It's hard, but there is strength in unity. That is why Women Healing Together is here. This is the mission. As I always say, we heal so much better when we heal together. And oftentimes we forget that there you were in your pastor's wife role, smiling on Sabbath morning. And it begs the question, how many women are showing up at work, showing up in their regular lives, smiling, eloquent, beautiful, and nobody knows what's happening.
And you know what?
1 minute, Tamara, it's also important that you said something, and you know, our time together is really coming down. You said when you went to his family members, it got worse. And that was a question I had for you. There's some person
he was empowered.
Listen, what are you, leave it and stay, pray about it. I am a woman of prayer, but God cannot come down from heaven and change anybody's heart. And so many times we talk about prayer. Tanisha says the Christian myth again, Tamara. She says, Jesus, how we care.
Oh, yes.
The language is Christian. Go ahead, Tamara.
I want to say to Popson and Donna that one of the things that happened to me, I moved from being this strong and powerful woman to this weak and vulnerable woman. Like, he would abuse me and I just couldn't even retaliate. I couldn't fight. Physically, I couldn't fight back. I just couldn't, I couldn't fight back because I was, my self-esteem was totally eroded. Physically, I felt I was weak. I thought maybe I was strong spiritually because that was the only thing that I was holding on to, and I was praying and I was begging God, help me, Lord, help me, Lord. I was praying. I thought maybe that was the only strength that I had. And then when I got pregnant, yes, after being in that relationship for a year and experiencing the abuse for a year, the church got a hold of it. We started going into counseling, and trying to fix the situation. I got pregnant. That didn't change the abuse, the abusive behavior, right? But when I got pregnant, my son became my hope. My son became my hope. And it was me being pregnant with him that helped me to survive, that gave me something to look forward to in this life. And yes, Donna mentioned it earlier, there was a point where I felt like I wanted to be dead. I don't think I've gotten to the point where I said that I would take my life, but I preferred to be dead than to be alive in that situation.
And that was passive suicide.
Yes.
At this solemn and serious moment, I have a question for Donna, because as I hear Tamara speak at the point where a strong woman, Tanisha is saying, Tamara, you're a strong woman. Janiel said earlier, you are an inspiration, but you have had a journey. Donna, a woman right now who saw herself as strong and now who sees herself as weak, how can she find hope? What can she do? As we close off today, and Sakleen says, as a man, this is women healing together, and this is a man commenting. He says, as a man, I don't think anyone, not even the church, should try to fix anything. Once a man puts his hand on you, he needs to go. But we did say earlier, yes, it's the truth, but it's not easy. And that is why we're bringing him down. And now, what can our sister do? She's listening now. Talk to her.
So it depends on, well, let me not say it depends on. It is very important for us, like we talked earlier about breaking the silence. And I think one of the things that we need to, like Popson said, this is a very solemn moment to think about a lot of stuff that was said earlier. For us to make ourselves available and to make ourselves come across to other women as not being judgmental of them if they're going through domestic abuse or intimate partner violence.
Yes.
The minute you come across as somebody that they cannot trust to talk about it, and you don't go and spread it to everybody else except doing the right thing, which is to get the person help, that is one of the things that we need to do, because we are our sister's keeper.
Yes.
So just being available, and even going a step further, not just only being available, but if it is that the person is not able to even find the strength and the determination to say, okay, let me get help or to report this, how can I be a source of help to the person? Because the first step, and this is something that we all need to recognize, the first step when somebody tells us that they are experiencing domestic abuse is to believe them. It's not our duty to act as detectives and all of that to figure out if it is true. The first step is to believe the person and try to get the help that the person needs. Let the law enforcement deal with that part of it, because another research shows that they did a study, and out of 118,000 cases that they did the research on, out of that 118,000, only 6 of that number was actually false allegations. 6.
Mm.
6. So a lot of times we tend to say, oh, the person is lying, and how can I believe this? And just like in Tamara's case, they'd probably be like, oh, that could never happen. She's the one who did something.
Yes.
And that is something that we need to get out of our mind, because intimate partner violence is not a matter of anger management or problems with anger or the person just snapped. That's not it. It's not about losing control for the perpetrator. It's about taking control of the person. So when we're able to think of it in that light, we're better able to become a source of support and strength to a person that is going through that. Also, there is also the domestic hotline. Depending on where you are, that's why I was starting off with depending. So depending on where you are, the hotline will vary. So that's another step. If it is that you're in the church, I'm hoping and I'm praying and I'm seeing it happening now, but we need to be more aware. There needs to be more educational campaigns about domestic abuse and helping to educate people about it. I was looking at a site, and I don't know if Popson can bring this up. If it is that you're out there, you're not even sure if you're experiencing domestic abuse, there is a power and control wheel that you can refer to. It outlines everything. If it's physical abuse, spiritual abuse, all of that, you can use it to identify where you are on that wheel and what it is that you're experiencing on that wheel. It was developed by the Domestic Abuse Intervention Project in Dulos, I think the name is. So that's a power control wheel. You can look at that. Just have some persons in your circle where you know that you can trust, you can talk to. Because the thing about domestic abuse, like I was referring earlier, even the police, they can't just come in and do things without if you're not the one saying, okay, I need to leave. Because there's some plans that they have, I can't remember all the names, but you can actually work with the police within your area to develop an escape plan. But you have to work with them. They have several names for it and several plans as to how you're going to plan the escape, when you're going to plan the escape, but the police has to be like directly involved with you planning that. But they cannot come to your house and physically remove you just like that.
Thank you so much, Donna. Thank you so much for that. You have left us with some important things, and we're going to ask our YouTube family to get your last comments in, because we're going to be closing off. We're going to be closing off with Tamara, as we ask her to share at least 2 lessons that she has learned from her experience as she speaks to your heart on your journey. Tanisha is trying to get her comment in before we go.
Yes.
See why some people always turn against God, because now one is tempted to ask, where was God in all of this? Why did he allow that to happen? And that is so true. But you see, the power of choice is a critical thing. And as Donna said earlier, it's a choice.
It is.
Try to overpower. It's a choice to take power. Shanae, their our WHP family, they're sending their last comment in. Shanae says, this even begs the question of how the church deals with divorce. Church has to start a conversation about this, because it can put a hush on abuse. Send those comments in. Send your last question in. You have been awesome today, WHT family, and thank you so much. Donna, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And based on what you said, I want to paraphrase this important point. You are in the situation of being a victim. You don't have to be a victim forever.
Yes.
It's important to understand, sisters, that you cannot do it alone.
Yes.
And in planning to leave, you have to strategize. I was on Tamara's live over an hour or 2 ago, and she said, be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Plan your escape and find persons who can support.
Right.
Tamara, leave us with your words of wisdom. 2 lessons that you have learned that can help a sister on this evening?
Two lessons that I have learned, guys. Number one, don't give up on God. And number two, don't give up on yourself. And that was what helped me through that situation. So look at the situation. I was with a pastor, a supposedly godly man. I should have turned away from God. I should have left the church after that experience. But you know what, guys? It brought me closer to God. It helped me to realize that in everything that we have been through or will go through, God is with us. And I often tell myself, consider the story of Job. And I look at Job's experience and I said, this is my Job's experience. This is my crucible, and I will go through it with God. And that's exactly what I did. I remember at the time when, even when he was still with us in Jamaica, when the baby was born, he wasn't going to church. And at no point in time, I didn't stop going to church. I didn't give up on God. And there's a song that says, don't give up on God, because he won't give up on you. So that's my lesson number one. Don't give up on God. Number two,
Oh Lord, go ahead, Tammy. Go ahead.
don't give up on yourself. And even though I had, and I heard you said it, that passive suicidal moment, I still held on to me. There was some amount of confidence burning deep in my heart. I still realize that, Tamara, despite you going through this experience, you have worth. You are of value. You still have your dreams that you want to accomplish. And so what I did, guys, I started pursuing my dreams. I started building myself. I started doing things outside of what I normally would do. I remember I organized a singing ministry, even when I was in that situation, and I started singing more and going from church to church in Jamaica. And I was just singing. I was just ministering. I found a passion, right? I said, just building tomorrow. I went and did further studies. I went and did the album, and I have it right here. My story, my song. Race, right? So, and I just kept building on me, because at the end of the day, guys, when you would have lost the marriage, when you would have lost the husband, and even if you had children and you would have lost the children from the relationship, because sometimes children are taken away from people in these kind of situations, right? I lost the prestige of being the first lady. I went from going to church and people would welcome Sister Tamara, whatever, to being nobody. I was now sitting up on the balcony in the back of the church. People would treat me with disregard and so on. I lost all of that, right? But at the end of the day, I did not lose myself. Thanks be to God.
Wonderful. Yeah. What a note to end Talk Truth on. I don't want it to end. And our community, they don't want it to end, because comments are still pouring in. One sister says, preach. This is amazing. Ladies, thank you so much for being with us this evening. And Tamara, I was going to say to you when you were quoting the song, what's a tune for us, the man? Tamara is a recording artist. She has her album, and I just want to talk to our Women Healing Together community about the Thanksgiving virtual gospel concert that is being organized and hosted by Tamara. That is going to be happening on December 5, 2020 at 7 p.m. Please visit her page at Tamara Hylton page on Facebook. She's also on Instagram. Support this strong sister. Support this strong sister. And helps, and as she ministers, and she helps others through her music and through the voice that was crippled but she never lost it.
Never
She
lost
never
it.
lost it.
Never.
Ladies, thank you so very much.
Yes.
Love you guys. Thank
Yes.
you, Women Healing Together family. Let's put back the ladies on screen for me. I want us to close off with these
Yes.
three beautiful smiles. All of us back on screen. Yeah! Have a wonderful evening. God bless you. Thank you for stopping by to talk through. This will not be your last time.
Yes. It was great being here. Nice
It was
meeting you,
great being
Donna.
here.
God bless everybody. All right.
And
Thank
like I
you.
always say, we heal so much better when we heal together. See you on Wednesday, December 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
All right.
God bless.
Bye,
Love you
everybody.
all. Take care. Bye-bye. Wow.
All right, so we're still live. So let's just wait a few before we have our little get together afterwards. Thank you. All right.